One of the things about living in a culture that's defined by narcissism, consumerism, greed, is that it makes relationships really hard, certainly romantic relationships.
So in a romantic relationship, if we're only gearing it on what's making us happy, and we're not gearing it on more stable, longer-term entities, such as commitment, or duty, or responsibility, or obligation, we're only going on, well, is this making me happy? That makes for a much more fragile kind of relationship.
Our society is completely being shaped around the impulses of selfish individuals, and the whole notion of character is collapsing, and we are losing the capacity to think about the future, to think beyond ourselves.
That's what we go to college for. We get degrees in that so we can help people come up with ideas. I mean, sometimes people say, oh, well, you know, I was thinking this cabinet would look good with this stove, and I look at it and I say, no, they're two entirely different styles. One is Victorian, another one's a different style, and some of them have these ideas that certain colors go good together. This one lady wanted her living room pink and red, and I told her, come on, red and white or pink and white.
There's got to be something wrong with me. Here I am back in the dating scene, and all I can do is ask, why do I keep doing this to myself? Just a few weeks ago, I ended a relationship after dating off and on for almost 4 years. And now I don't even know why we broke up.
I see couples all the time in my practice leaving or wanting to leave pretty reasonable relationships, pretty reasonable partners, because they have this idea that they're entitled to something much bigger and bolder and hotter and sexier.
The dating pool is so enormous, and it must be so challenging to settle on somebody, you know, and you start thinking in those terms. I'm settling, I could do better, you know. It's like playing craps or something, you know. Do I roll again, or do I go home with my winnings?
Whenever I considered why I was still single, of course I'll first blame my parents. After all, that's what we do now. But it wasn't because of some abuse or neglect I suffered as a child, or because they continuously fought and argued, then separated at my most vulnerable stage of childhood. No, it was because they truly loved and cared for each other. The idea of infidelity or divorce was not even in their vocabulary, and everywhere they went, they held hands. And so as I entertained the notion of finding a lifelong partner, the model that my parents set for me was a high bar. And as a consequence, I wasn't willing to settle for anything less.
Well, one of the main reasons for dysfunctional relationships typically has to do with family history. You know, when you're a parent, you're modeling how to be in a relationship, you're modeling intimacy, you're modeling love, you're modeling communication.
My parents were from Poland, and through sheer luck, somehow survived the war. Having lost virtually everyone and everything, they found each other at a relocation camp in Stuttgart, Germany. Soon, they fell in love and eventually emigrated to America, where they made San Francisco their home.
One of the hallmarks of America is the claim that we're the land of opportunity. People came here in order to make a better life. And we in America have looked back historically at Europe and seen an aristocracy and a poor working class. Upstairs, downstairs, Downton Abbey. I mean, there have been a bazillion shows that have illustrated the British and the French and the Germans all had split. And we were democratic small d, meaning anybody could make it. That was part of the American dream. That was central to the American dream. That was true 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. It's not true today. It is absolutely shocking that today studies show it is easier for people to go from the bottom to the middle, from the middle to the top, move up the ladder in Germany, in France, in Norway, in Sweden, in Finland, in Canada, in Australia, in New Zealand. I've just rattled off 8 or 9 countries. It's easier to advance there than it is in America. I mean, this is an enormous change for us.
Despite the challenges of a new country with a new language, having no family or money, in the words of my father, they had found paradise. And as a testament to the wondrous nation they had adopted, my father would marvel at the stacks of newspapers along Market Street, upon which rested unattended cigar boxes for people to simply leave their coins.
We've done research recently that looks at this big question of trust in institutions and trust in individuals, and this is all in the U.S. And what's fascinating, there's a lot of things fascinating, but what's fascinating is in the 70s, the baby boomers, they didn't trust the institutions. They might not have trusted the government, but they trusted each other. Now, trust in institutions and in people and in each other as Americans is about the lowest it's ever been.
One of the things that we don't think about enough is the degree to which the high inequality of income is tearing the fabric of our society apart. There's a loss of trust that ripples all through our society. People don't trust companies, companies don't trust the government, labor doesn't trust management, management doesn't trust labor, Democrats don't trust Republicans, Republicans don't trust Democrats. It's not just that those different groups of people are fighting and struggling with each other, because they always have. That's the way the world works. It is that we have begun to lose a sense of the social fabric that ties us together.
I was the youngest of 2 for whom my parents dedicated their lives, instilling in us above all the value of education and independence. I played in the school orchestra, took after-school classes in science, studied French, excelled in sports and the arts, and all as part of my inner-city public elementary school curriculum. It was a charmed life growing up. Most things came easy, and I had the opportunity to do pretty much anything I wanted. It was at the University of California, while auditioning keyboard players for my band, I met Jim, who was soon to become one of my closest friends. By now, I had found employment with the San Francisco Fire Department, traveled the world, was teaching at my alma mater, and while meeting women was never difficult, finding the right one just never happened.
At a certain point, you have to say about your partner, good enough. And I know, God, I sound like such an economist and I've ruined all the fun of it when I say it that way, but that's just the realistic way the world works. The one is not out there. And accepting that the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with or the next few years with, accepting that person for what they are and saying, you know, that person is great and that's good enough for me. That is a very fundamental, important economic concept, because it's about understanding that the costs of trying to do better at a certain point outweigh the benefits you could do from doing that.
It wasn't until I was approaching that dreaded age of 50 that a concurrence of events took place. I had gutted my house, and after 2 grueling years, at last it was finished. I had just completed directing a feature film, a comedy poking fun at human sexuality.
I thought we were supposed to do it doggy style.
Sweetheart, this is doggy style.
Okay, it's not for everyone. And I was promoted to lieutenant. The only thing that seemed to be missing was that special someone for whom I had been searching my entire life. And still wanting to have a family, my prospects were looking increasingly bleak.
If you're constantly being told that your soulmate is out there, there isn't the idea that you actually have to work on yourself. You know, Kierkegaard had this great quote that you should rotate the soil rather than kind of move farms. And the same thing is true often in long-term relationships, that Our capacity to work on ourselves, our capacity to be self-reflective, take responsibility is really one of the hugest assets.
But it shouldn't have been so difficult. After all, San Francisco had one of the highest percentages of singles, where the ratio of eligible women to men was greatly to my advantage. Of course, I had my criteria, one of which was no tattoos. It just seemed contradictory to shout out, "I'm different," when everyone appeared to be saying the same thing.
Mom, what's a tramp stamp?
I mean, even my mom had a tattoo. My friends insisted that I was just too picky.
Part of the reasons people are lonely is because they keep trying to trade up. So as I like to say, loneliness from an economist perspective is literally just romantic unemployment.
You remember Jim, my good friend from college? Well, he was also turning 50 and subsequently launched into a major depression.
The major antidepressants are what we call SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. These would be drugs like Paxil, Zoloft, Cymbalta.
For weeks, I attempted to talk Jim through his depression and dissuade him from harming himself. Until one early morning when I received a sudden, unexpected wake-up call. Immediately, I raced over to his house, only to find my friend resting in his final state.
Part of the problem with the research around SSRIs is that there is a huge range of adverse effects, side effects, which really are not really well known in the drug literature, but pretty well known in the real world. People have sexual side effects, a loss of interest in sex. There's increased rates of suicide related to SSRIs. But the worst side effect that I would say is that the drugs are very difficult to stop.
I realized that I needed to do something, and fast, as time was fleeting and I didn't want to die alone. By now, I'd accomplished most everything I wanted in life, except for that one most important and profound experience. And so I was determined to do everything possible to find that special someone. I figured if I could invest the time, energy, and money that I did in making a film like Porn Dogs, surely I could do the same in finding a partner. And so I set out to do just that.
Hey.
Hi, Carol.
Good to see you again, Greg. Come on in.
My goal is to help you explore thoughts that you have, feelings, things that maybe you've never expressed, nobody's ever asked you before. And our time together will give you more insight about what you're really in search of as you're looking for the special relationship. Because I know you're 49. What are really the characteristics that you're looking for in a partner?
I have a vague notion, and I think one of the issues that I struggle with is that, you know, they say make a list of the positive qualities and the negative qualities, what are you looking for, etc. And I just find it easier to make a negative list.
Who's the kind of person who makes a negative list?
Greg? A negative person, perhaps? One who is judgmental. I mean, I recognize this, and it's been brought to my attention in some past relationships. And it just has to do with the notion of judgment in and of itself, that the idea that one is judgmental has a negative connotation. But I think that if one were honest with themselves, they would recognize that we judge everything. We judge people, we judge food, we judge beauty, we judge film, we judge art, we judge everything. And we do it constantly. That's the way our brains are wired. And so for me, to not judge is almost as if I'm not acknowledging what I observe. And that's what I struggle with. Well, I've broken down and decided to try my hand at online dating. There's still, for me, a stigma attached to it, and I feel somewhat embarrassed. But I decided I'm gonna do everything I can and try to meet as many people as I can and hopefully broaden my opportunities. Have kids? No. Want kids? Someday. So I've uploaded 5 photos. Hopefully these will be satisfactory. In about an hour, I have my first internet dating date. "25 minutes now, and still a no-show, no call. So I think I'm just gonna bag this one.
There's no doubt that the social forces in our lives shape our character. And there's no doubt that the most powerful social force in most of our lives is related to the economy.
In the 1960s and into the 1970s, people power was being felt in Washington. There was a civil rights movement, there was a women's movement, there was a consumer movement, there was an environmental movement, there was a strong labor movement, there was a peace movement. All those movements were having an impact, a direct impact, which you can see, an impact on public policy. The middle class was active. We as a people were active. We understood democracy was a participatory sport, not a spectator sport. And what happened was, Lewis Powell, this corporate attorney, who was a favorite of the US Chamber of Commerce, went to his buddies and said, hey, we're getting killed in the political arena. We got to defend business. We got to fight the labor unions. We got to fight the environmental movement. We got to fight the women's movement. And they said to him, why don't you write it down? You're a lawyer, write us a brief. So he sat down in August 1971, and he wrote a document, which I think is the most understudied, unappreciated, and probably underknown document in the last 50 years of American history that had enormous impact. And basically he wrote a manifesto for corporate America and said, pool your resources, put your money together, have a long-term plan, go after your political enemies in Washington, move your company offices to Washington, and lobby, and go after power, capture government. Well, what's amazing is that's what happened. When Powell wrote his memo, there were only 175 companies that even had offices in Washington. 8 years later, before Ronald Reagan gets elected in 1980, there are 2,425. There are 50,000 people working for business trade associations. There are 9,000 registered corporate lobbyists, and the Business Roundtable has been formed. The Business Roundtable is the biggest, loudest, most powerful voice of blue chip corporate America and American politics. Before Powell wrote his memo, it didn't exist.
I know that I want someone who's confident, who knows who they are, who's spiritual, who's a Christian, a Republican would help, who's successful. You know, there's just a certain lifestyle that has, and you don't want anything other than that. I like nice restaurants, I like to travel in nice places, and I like valet parking, and I like a man that's very, that's generous.
Well, thanks for at least coming out to dinner with me
after.
after.
Yeah, well, I obviously thought that,
there was something.
There might be something, yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, and girls got to eat too.
If you want to predict how many messages a woman on an online dating site is going to get, the best predictor by far is how good looking she is. For men, it's different. That is, what makes a man attractive to a woman, the most consistent predictor by far is how much money that guy makes.
A lot of it is that a lot of guys are attracted to me. And I always tell people I have a super long waiting list and I can't like everybody and I'm not accountable or I don't want to be responsible for somebody else's happiness. That drives me crazy. And I usually have this rule where it's a 3-month rule. Like in 3 months, if we haven't had sex, then I don't want nothing to do with them, If we haven't kissed in 3 weeks, it's done. Like I have like this 3-3-3. And if we're together more than 3 years and we're still sort of talking, then maybe it's serious enough to marry.
So you mentioned your 3-3-3 rule. So you said you have to kiss within 3 weeks.
Actually, I'm trying to be nice. 3 days. If there's no kiss, that's it. But then if I like him, I'll give him 3 more weeks. 3 weeks. If nothing's happened, I'm done. But by 3 months, if he's still there, then I know it's gonna head towards, something, maybe sex. Let's get it going. I'm not wasting my time. I hate that.
Well, we've been here for 3 minutes.
That's a high five. Yes.
What's always interested me about this shift in the consumer culture is that all these characteristics and tendencies and habits that we used to really worry about and shun as a sign of a weak character, poorly developed character, being self-indulgent, being impatient, being unwilling to look beyond yourself and work for a larger goal. I mean, you know, those were things that were the mark of a person who was somebody you wouldn't want to be around. Well, now that's the model. That's what consumers are expected to be. You're expected to focus on yourself. You're expected to be impatient and be unwilling to wait for things. In fact, people who wait are losers. You know, you're expected to want things to be your way. That's our whole consumer culture is built that way. So, you know, the end result is we have a sort of a redefinition of character. And it's implicit. We don't walk around saying it's good to be greedy, it's good to be impatient necessarily, but that's the implication of this culture that we've built.
This is May's apartment. I met May at a Spanish-speaking club in my relentless effort to learn to speak Spanish. But fortunately, this is a non-Spanish-speaking party, so the pressure's off. But it's just one of my ways in which to get out of the house a little bit more and meet new people. So, we'll see.
I would say probably a good, 15 throughout the day.
15 cups of coffee?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
They're regular cups. They're not like, venti. Go to Starbucks and, yeah, no, not 15 of those. Oh, wait. What did I say?
Maybe that's why you got to stay active. All that caffeine is making you active.
I read some things about caffeine and people with ADD or ADHD or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really affect you or those types of people. It's a stimulant. Stimulants work in a different direction for people like that. So, although I wasn't really formally diagnosed.
When you look at the rates of ADHD drug prescribing in the U.S. compared to any other country in the world, it's appalling. It's, the per capita use of those drugs in the U.S. is 6, 8, 10 times more than it would be in countries like France or England.
I'm just trying to get back in the dating scene and, meet new people and, just trying to start life all over again. Yeah. Have you ever had anyone cheat on you that you really, really loved?
Yeah, I had one situation
Yeah.
which wasn't pleasant.
How did that make you feel?
Well, I got very angry.
Yeah.
I shot her.
Did you kill her? Can you go kill my husband? My ex-husband. And maybe the nurse too.
Can I ask you a question? You don't look anything like the picture.
What do you mean?
On the website, on your profile, you look different.
Well, maybe a little different. That was a old picture, so.
Part of what's happened to us today in America in the last 2 decades in particular is the game is all about winning. It's not about how you win the game. If you can cheat and get away with it, then it's okay.
If everybody else is cheating, you've got to cheat too, and the whole system becomes corrupt.
Someone who is smart, someone, because I have to look up to him. He's the guy. He should be smarter than me. Someone who is successful, someone who's more successful than me. Because right now I don't have a job, and I've honestly been through a lot in my life. Someone who's good-looking, charming, attractive, better looking than me. That would be great too. And someone who's funny. He can tell a joke, have a nice conversation, has a good sense of humor. I think I'm a very serious person.
So let me get this straight. The guy that you want is looking for a girl who is not as smart as he is, who's not as successful as he is, or actually who doesn't have a job,
someone who is not as good looking, and someone who doesn't have much of a sense of humor.
I have been accused of being a cynic. I've literally been called, dead inside, or hey, your half a feeling is showing. Hey, have you ever cried at a funeral before? Like, I'm trying to soften that, and I'm trying to be better about that. And I think somebody in my life that can help me with that is really important, and somebody that can relate to me, frankly, because I'm a raging narcissist and I'm fairly selfish. So that's where I'm coming from. So what are you kind of looking for in a relationship?
The big question is, what is it about culture that's sort of leading to this increase in narcissism? Or another way to think about it is culture changing in such a way that makes narcissism more likely to occur, to happen? And we've looked at this in a few different ways. One way is to think about narcissism as really the dark side of individualism.
We have taken that individualism in places and overemphasized it, neglected the important aspects of solidarity and community, to the point where now it has kind of devolved in places of selfishness, nihilism, and a neglect of our obligations to each other and our commitments to each other.
Well, this is definitely a different kind of coffee shop. Hi, Layla.
Hey, Greg. Hi, nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you too.
Wow, you actually look like your picture.
I hear that online what most of the women say is that the men lie about how tall they are.
That's true.
Well, you look like the photo you put online. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm a girl. I'm honest. Sorry, no offense. No.
That's not true of a lot of women, though. I get a lot of the age is what they usually cheat on.
Oh, okay. Well, we are ageless.
That's true.
Hi, how are you today?
Fine, thanks.
Good. Is there anything I can get for you?
Oh, sure, yeah. Can I get a double shot, half calf Americano, please?
Okay, very cool. And what size would you like it in?
What sizes do you have?
I have a B cup, which is 12 ounce, a C cup, which is a 16 ounce, and a D cup, which is 20 ounce.
Oh, wow. Can I get a C cup?
Okay, sounds good. And anything for you, sir?
Yeah, I'll have a, I'm sorry. Let me have a cafe au lait, please.
Cafe au lait, B cup, C cup, D cup?
A B cup would be
B
fine.
cup, okay, sounds good.
So, I'm sorry. This is a unique environment to meet a woman on a first date.
Yeah, well, my roommate said I should meet you somewhere public, so hey, you can't get more public than that.
It's definitely public.
You like?
Everything in your life now is not only what it does, but what it says about you. And you choose things half-consciously because you're essentially a sort of perpetual project of self-construction, which you're lovingly gazing at as if it were your Facebook page, editing as you go along, is what the objects and the furniture of our everyday lives are about now, as well as being a chest of drawers where you put your clothes.
I think some things happen that we're not looking at, that even if we don't buy anything and we don't buy any services, we've come to think about life in a market kind of way. For example, we look for meaning and joy at the purchase point, the perfect birthday party, the perfect wedding. It's the thing, the object that you have purchased. It's the result where we look for our meaning and joy. And therefore we've subtracted our search for meaning and joy from the production side of life.
More and more our lives are being governed and are being shaped by choices that are more and more influenced by, the corporate agendas of companies that have nothing to do with us, that don't share any of our interests, that don't know who we are as individuals. They only know who we are as consumer profiles. And yet that is becoming the sort of guiding, defining experience in modern life.
Okay, he's okay. Thank you. Sure. Okay, so go ahead.
Let's see, what else do I want to know about you?
Now, what else do you want to know?
Do you play sports?
No.
Nothing?
No.
So how do you stay in such good shape?
Liposuction.
The arms and the legs.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. I've had it twice.
And I guess it works.
Obviously.
So is it painful?
Yeah. It's very painful. But it's worth it. I mean, I'd have anything done if I needed to. Wouldn't you?
I guess if I needed it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of men are having cosmetic surgery now. I think it's a great idea.
Really?
I could take you into my doctor and let him look at you.
What do you think I should alter?
I don't know, I have to see you naked. No, seriously, I would have to see you naked. And then I can let you know.
So when I think about cultural forces that are sort of very present right now, especially in a culture where we want people to buy stuff, and even if they don't have money, we want to give them credit to buy the stuff. I mean, how do we want these perfect consumers to feel? And really we want two things out of our society. We want people who are anxious, and we want people who are self-absorbed or narcissistic. And the narcissistic people go out and purchase things and show how good they look, and the anxious people feel bad and say, I better catch up with that narcissistic person. And the whole system, it's like a dog chasing its tail. And this is a wonderful system if you want a society of consumers. It's not a good system if you want a society of citizens.
Spending and eating, both kinds of consuming behavior, they've both been on the rise in America, at least certainly for 100 years, but there's been a really sharp increase since the 1970s in both spending and eating. And it's interesting, we're not just buying more of everything and eating more of everything. I don't think anyone's eating more broccoli or green beans, anything like that. What people are eating more of are refined grain products, packaged cookies, crackers, a lot of foods with added sugar.
I was really surprised to find out that the largest food manufacturer in this country for the 80s, the 90s, into the mid-2000s was none other than the largest tobacco company, Philip Morris. It purchased the old food giant called General Foods and then Kraft. And through much of the 80s and the 90s, you can see through the internal documents that I got a hold of, the tobacco managers sort of nudging and cajoling and lending some of their marketing practices to their food manufacturers because, look, these are companies wanting to make as much money as possible.
In another effort to expand my opportunities, I enrolled in a popular dating agency, where each week I would sit at a table with 3 women specifically matched to my criteria.
Who eats these little round ball things? That's ridiculous.
Well, who comes to a table on a date and sticks a thing in their ear, huh?
Exactly.
What's
Who
wrong
does
with
that?
I turned 30 last year, and I told myself that if it didn't happen by the time I was 30, that I would get married. So I married myself.
I think we need to stop talking about business and start talking about these connections.
May I say one more thing about business? Yeah, we're doing a service. I know that you're a little disappointed.
I used to have that attitude and I got walked all over. So I have a new attitude where being a bitch is gonna get me what I want.
And how's that working for you?
It's working pretty good right now because I have your attention, don't I?
One of the really disturbing consequences to come out of the financial crisis is that we discover not only that our banks and other financial institutions are now behaving like children, essentially, with very short attention spans, but we're discovering that same model has been injected into the culture at large. So it's not just that banks are making huge high-risk bets in the interest of trying to get short-term gains. It's that they've created all these tools that allow consumers to do exactly the same thing. So we're both operating, institutions and individuals are now operating in the same time frames with the same goals.
The other problem is, though, that these institutions have become corrupt, or people perceive them as corrupt, and that people are out for themselves. The politicians are out for themselves. They're not out for the good of myself or for my family.
I see us, America, in a situation where we're like ancient Rome or ancient Greece, our biggest challenge is what the historian Arnold Toynbee called schisms in the soul of the body politic, internal divisions that are ripping our country apart. And it undermines everything. It undermines people's confidence in each other, and it starts people driving hard to grab whatever they can for themselves. And selfishness itself undermines the way the whole society operates.
Living along the Metro line, I would often take a streetcar downtown when meeting a date for the first time. But the frustration with public transportation had nothing to do with schedules or convenience. Rather, it was the irritation that finding a seat almost always required a negotiation.
Well, tell me about it. What's it called?
It's comedy. It's about dogs.
That's great. Maybe my dogs could be in your next film.
You know, it's not really an appropriate, like a first date. I'm not sure I'm just a little uncomfortable discussing.
What exactly was his movie?
The title's, it's called Porn Dogs. It's comedy, that's all. It's comedy. And
This is the idea you thought, like, of all the movie ideas, this is the one that got you pumped up. This is the one that you decided was like worth putting out into the world. Like, this is the statement you want to make in the world, like demeaning and sexualizing dogs. It's disgusting and it's demeaning. I mean, basically you just wanted to like fantasize and make a movie about how you want to fuck your dog or see your dog get fucked. Anyway, all right, well, I think I've heard what I need to hear about that movie.
you want to hear about my other films? Well, seeing that I've been dating my entire adult life and I still can't seem to find the right girl, I figured, well, maybe I should look inside, see if there's something wrong with my personality. So I had this idea. Well, that was an experience. It's a 200 questionnaire, and they plot out this graph for me which tells me what's wrong with me. She told me that I was depressed, suicidal, inhibited, irresponsible, nervous. Well, let's just say this kind of explains perhaps why I have such a hard time finding the right girl. Oh well. I started substitute teaching, just as casual labor, and I liked it. And so I decided to get a credential and get a master's degree in ed, and I became a teacher and I tortured my students, and that was fun.
I assume you're being sarcastic.
You mean as far as the fun part, or?
Torturing your students. It's like,
No, I tortured them. Yeah.
yeah, uh-huh.
No, really.
I just find sarcasm so unattractive. It's like if you use sarcasm, and I find a lot of men do, it's like saying everything you said beforehand isn't really true. Isn't it just easier to just speak honestly and openly from your heart than just poking fun at everything and throwing that in?
I don't know. I've kind of run out of sarcastic things to say.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the whole, smartphone upgrade dynamic that we all get caught up in. People will line up and sleep overnight in front of an Apple store so that they can have the first iPhone 6S. And they don't really know why they want it, because they don't know what features are going to be on that phone. They just know that they're going to want them. And to me, that's the epitome of a culture that has become so focused on want, it's losing the capacity to know what it needs. And we like to imagine that we can separate these things. We can say, no, when I'm shopping for smartphones, I get totally obsessed, and I admit it's weird, but if I'm doing important stuff like handling my personal finances or seeking a relationship, then I'm very practical and I'm very smart and I'm very long-term. I don't think that's true. I don't think that we can make those distinctions quite as well as we sometimes think we can. And I think that some of the bad habits that show up in some of these consumer realms bleed into the rest of the way we run our lives.
You flat ironed your hair. You flat ironed your hair.
It's natural. You mean to tell me that the octopus is on the hot plate trying to get off? I mean, what if maybe they had like an octopus whisperer?
That's not what I was doing. Can you take those things off? No, a gentleman would not wear those. I know you're a big rapper or whatever. What's your big rap name? What is it?
What's your rap name?
It is so hard getting out as a single mom, I have to tell you. No, like seriously.
Right.
Like getting with sitter, and he's so cute, but he's not really potty trained yet.
I'm open to that. My therapist says I gotta try new things.
Do you have kids?
No, I don't really like kids.
All right. Okay.
You?
Yeah.
Gentlemen, please move to the left.
Oh, don't worry, my husband is bald too.
I'm sorry?
I'm married, but we have an open marriage, an open relationship. So he knows I'm out here, so he's given me his blessing. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I hate to pop that on you. Yeah. No, we've been married for about 5 years, and he's great. He's one of my best friends, and last year we decided to give each other the gift of open marriage for our anniversary, and it's been the best thing that's ever happened to us. It's all about honesty. That's what polyamorous is about. That's what it is. Being fulfilled as a human being, even if you are unable to fulfill something in the person that you love or are married to. So, and it's not, every time someone in a polyamorous relationship, or at least our marriage, we have a temptation, we don't follow through on that. We have to talk it through, make sure it's healthy, make sure that we approve, and he approves of you.
What you see with narcissism is this whole packet of what we can think of as extrinsic or external values. So it can be materialism, it can be sort of hostility and aggression, it can be shallow sexuality, sex is a prop or sex is a thing. It can be relationships where the person you're with is valued like an object, like a trophy or a doll or a car. It can be seeking fame or sort of attention from people rather than connection with people. And all those things seem to go together with this narcissistic society.
I came here when I was 7.
Oh,
so I was a little girl.
You're an American.
I'm American. I am American at my heart, and the way I think and the way I live my life, I'm totally American. So what I like about it is that you can have as many girlfriends as you want, as many boyfriends as you want at the same time. That's called freedom. You see the one girl one night and say, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay. And nobody's going to look down upon you, and nobody's going to criticize you. You live your life the way you want.
Mm-hmm.
In other countries, sex is like taboo. But in America, it's no big deal. People are open-minded, broad-minded. I should say broad-minded. America gives you so much freedom. You're the king of your life. And when you die with satisfaction that you got what you wanted, Well, if you don't feel inwardly free, because you don't feel safe, you're likely to be preoccupied with tomorrow, your own tomorrow, and the day after that. I think it makes us into curtailed people, not the people we want to be. I think that's one of the paradoxes of love, for example, that it's talked about as if, you're married now, and now you're tied down. It's as if you're no longer as free. Actually, a good relationship is completely liberating in the sense that your security needs are met, and you get to be curious about the world. You get to be as kind a person as you possibly can be. You get the rewards of that. It's we have to think more deeply about what freedom is. I think it involves developing deep and abiding bonds.
They're the guys who seem really sweet and wonderful and nice, and then the phone rings and they get on and they start yelling and you have no idea why. And you think maybe this is like, they're like the hero and really fighting for some cause, some greater good. And it turns out, no, that was just their mom. And one guy who literally had holes in his tennis shoes because he hadn't replaced them in 5 years, and the cat had peed on them. Want nothing more than sexting and booty calls. Shoved his tongue down my throat, told me I was 10 pounds overweight, otherwise perfect. Fetishes? For whatever reason, I draw the line at choking.
And I don't know. I mean, I get really troubled by the state of the world and the state of society, and I don't really understand why it's so hard for people to commit to things and to commit to things from a state of joy. You know, but myself included.
The mama's boys, midlife crisis, slobs, hoarder, and then there are the guys who literally just want to mooch off of you and go play with their bands and spin their theories about life in the universe. I am feeling a little jaded at the moment.
I did have a couple serious relationships that I was in for a period of time. There was a lot of abuse, physical abuse, and so it was very toxic. And consequently, I have a lot of trust issues now. So after that, then I was just very careful at that point. I didn't let a lot of people in.
We've got a huge amount of real social and mental anxiety, and just funnel it through the sieve of a physician's office where they have about one tool that they can give you, and that tool is a quick prescription for an antidepressant. And you say, well, really, is that what medicine's about? Well, really, kind of, that's what we pay for. We, the way the insurance industry is structured, the way we compensate physicians, and the fact that we will pay for any antidepressant you want, but we may not pay for cognitive behavioral therapy, or maybe some coaching, or maybe what you really need is just a little bit of help with the childcare.
It used to be two people were doing two jobs. The man went off to work, he made enough money to support the family, and the woman ran the home. Now we have two people doing three jobs. Two people are going off to work. Two people are going off to work, right? Not just one. And then one of them's coming home and taking the main share of taking care of the kids in the household, the other one's kicking in a bit. So you've got a much greater burden on the average family in America today. And it isn't just financial, it's emotional, it's time stress.
Living in an you're on your own world where there's no help if you need it is going to make anybody anxious.
And the thing about anxiety is we will do just about anything to alleviate it. You know, we will make huge mistakes to and silly purchases and outrageous declarations in order to alleviate a sense of anxiety, when in many cases anxiety is something that we just need to get used to. I mean, it's a state. It's telling us that something isn't quite right in our life. It's inviting us to maybe take another look at things and maybe sit back and take a deep breath. You know, that's what we should be doing. But instead we've got this whole culture that says, don't sit back, don't reflect, don't take a deep breath. Just go to the next, you know, consumption experience and hope for the best.
But things have to be exact, and I don't like, you know, irresponsibility in any way, and I just don't want to waste my time, you know, because I've been through this enough times. I want to eventually find someone, you know, my clock is ticking, so I really want to get going.
He was okay, but he just wasn't a match. I mean, he was from another country and he barely spoke English, and I couldn't really have a conversation with him because I kept having to say, what? What are you saying?
Parties are always excellent venues in which to meet people, and there are no parties bigger than Halloween parties. The only problem is I've never been fond of them. I'm not much of a drinker, and dressing up in a costume never appealed to me.
It may be beyond most people to live postmodern authenticity. I mean, that might be the case. In which case, what you get is a life that's full of distractions that are compelling enough to soothe you away from paying attention to the absence of any grounded identity in you.
My faith is very important to me. I have a very strong relationship with God, and I want Him to be present in my future relationship with the next person that I'm involved with.
You know, I was actually brought up Jewish, so I'm not Christian. I don't know how you feel about that, if that's an issue, but.
So if you were to have a child who was a boy, and you'd want him to have that aspect of, the Jewish identity, would you want him to be circumcised? Would that be an important thing? It's kind of an embarrassing topic, but
That's a good question. I've never been asked that one before maybe this is what happens when you go to a Christian dating website.
Well, I've never asked that question before.
To be honest with you, I don't know.
Huh.
But most Christians I know are circumcised too.
I don't know.
I mean, Jesus was circumcised.
Yeah, Jesus was a Jew, so yeah, I guess he would be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have.
And so was John and Paul and Peter. I mean, Joseph. They're all circumcised. So what's your problem? I'm just kidding.
The core idea that made the American economy so powerful and made American middle class and America as a whole the envy of the world was a concept that people call stakeholder capitalism. And what that was the idea that the boss, the CEO, had an obligation, a duty, some called it a moral responsibility, to share the wealth, to balance the interests of all the stakeholders in the corporation. Now that word stakeholders is very important. What they meant by that is all the people and all the groups that had a stake in the survival and the profit of that corporation. And of course that means the owners, the stockholders, but it also means management. It means rank and file employees. It means the banks that lend the money. It means the suppliers that provide the parts for the autos or for whatever product they're making. It means the customers that buy their products. It means the communities in which they have their plants or their offices. All of those, its CEO is sitting like in the hub, the center of a wheel with spokes going out in all directions, okay? That was a concept that we're all in this together. There was a sense of solidarity. There was a sense that a rising tide would lift all boats. And that was part of the job of the CEO. Now that's been replaced by a very, very different concept today called shareholder capitalism, in which the idea is the CEO's job is only to return maximum return to the shareholders, to the owners of the company, the people on Wall Street, the people who invest. Well, if you return the maximum to the people who own the place, you're going to hold wages down. You're going to fire people. You're going to shut down factories. You're going to cut costs. You're going to move jobs overseas. You're going to start to take some of the other stakeholders and you're going to squeeze them. And you're going to leave the towns that gave you a tax break or gave you some kind of incentive or built roads or built water systems or built electric power around your plant in order to make it work. Because lots of states, lots of cities do that in order to attract industry. They've got an investment. Companies walked right away from that. And the result was that created what I call wedge economics, a split between the drive of the company to maximize its profits and return most of it to Wall Street and to the shareholders and forget the rest.
You can almost sort of trace the beginnings of the current obesity epidemic starting in the 1980s to Wall Street getting much more excited about tech stocks. And when they got excited about tech stocks, they kind of turned to the blue chip companies and said, what have you guys done for us lately? Blue chips, including food manufacturers. And that's when you started to see the heads of the food companies becoming concerned about their stock price, not once a year, not quarterly or monthly or even weekly, but on a daily basis. And that's a really bad thing when it comes to having the money and the resources to develop healthy products, because it takes a lot of money and a lot of time to put a new product on the grocery shelf for people. So what we've seen is that the food giants have, in the interest of maintaining sort of the highest profits, have stuck with the tried and true, which tends to be the highest sugary, fattest, saltiest products they can come up with in the grocery store, and tweaking them just a little bit to give us some semblance of newness when we walk into the store looking for what to buy.
Today, there is much less security for the average worker. You're much less likely to have a pension. You are much less likely to stay in the same job for a long period of time. This produces insecurity, this produces anxiety, and this produces a sense of normlessness that is very difficult for people and for relationships. So insecurity in one parts of our lives, such as the workplace, can lead to insecurity in other parts of our lives, such as in our family, in our personal relationships.
And there's even some research that's shown that when people feel insecure about their relative wealth, their wealth compared to their peers or neighbors, that they're also their caloric intake is likely to go up. So social scientists are really just now beginning to understand that there's a very complex kind of feedback loop or mechanism between anxiety, insecurity, and these compensatory behaviors like overeating and overspending.
You also have to think, you're 49 years old, so by the time you meet somebody and get married, unless you're going to do it in a day,
Which I won't.
You're going to be in your 50s, and by the time the child is born, maybe you're 52, 53. How fair is that to a child? I think it's selfish, you know? I mean, even if I could, at this age, have children, you know, with no problems, unless I'm going to stay looking like this for the next 20 to 30 years, I don't think it's fair to the child. On the flip side, I mean, somebody who's 35, 36, when I was that age, there's no way I was going to be dating somebody who's pushing 50. What's the point? I don't need to, you know? Why not stick to somebody my own age? The only reason any woman would do that is that if you're loaded and then they just want your money. I guess it's mutual use then, right? You're using her for babies and she's using you for money or a green card or whatever it is that she's looking for. And that's not love, that's use.
If you look at the rates of divorce, if you look at the way that we drive our cars, if you look at the hostile way in which we often operate on the internet, you know, time and again, it's the case where individuals are seeking their own pleasure and you know, disregarding how that pleasure seeking is going to affect themselves in the future or the rest of society. And our culture condones that, encourages that, in fact depends on that sort of behavior in order to keep, you know, the profits moving. And yet, if you look at it, you know, case by case, that's really an unpleasant way to be. I mean, who would want to hang out with a person who operates like the ideal consumer is supposed to operate?
From Sudan, I moved to Yemen first because both my parents were political activists and were wanted by the government in Sudan. So when the Civil War broke out, we were evacuated and moved to Boston. And then that's kind of where my life just started. I learned English watching Barney and Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. And I just kind of dove into American culture. It was definitely a culture shock. Eventually, I do want to settle down. I want to get married. I want to have kids of my own. But it just seems so hard to find someone who truly valued that. I don't know, dating here is difficult. I don't know if you've experienced that.
Well, you don't get to be my age and still be single without having experienced a little difficulties, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that people become disillusioned here and they forget about people around them. I mean, just now I was coming here, I was riding my bike. I saw this old man and he was in a cast and on a wheelchair and crossing the street and clearly struggling a little bit, and then was having a hard time going over the little sidewalk bump to get back onto the sidewalk. And I watched as other people walked by, and I was riding up to the stop sign with my bicycle and no one was helping and he was struggling. And of course, immediately my first thought is, get off of your bike and go help him. And I got off of my bike and I said, excuse me, sir, do you need any help? And I helped him get back on, and he said, thank you. And then he turns around and goes, no one your age does things like this anymore. And what I really thought about that was that nobody really does things like that anymore. That individualism and that like spirit that you get here in the States, you don't have the privilege of having elsewhere. But I don't know, how much is that worth really if I can't find someone to be with?
What if we say, okay, we're giving up on friendship? What if we say, oh, we're giving up on government supports that would be available to people of every income bracket? And what if we live only in the market? What does that do to our souls? What does that do to us as people?
Greg is so sweet. I mean, I haven't been on a date like this in I don't know how long. It's refreshing to just find someone that shares the same values as me. I just wish he was 10 years younger.
And then one day, while touring Google's main campus, a window suddenly opened. Virtually everyone there seemed to be from another country. The best and the brightest, I was told. So I figured, what's good for Google might also be good for Greg, and soon cast my sights on more distant horizons.
When the economy is growing, people are happier. There's job opportunities, there's optimism, and that feeds on itself. And that's the biggest concern I have in terms of the American economy. If you go to India, and I was just there last year, you have the opposite effect, opposite opinion. People are very optimistic because they're seeing these job opportunities, because they have a healthier economy than they've ever had. And so you see that kind of opportunity, that kind of risk-taking, right? And that kind of optimism.
Well, here's a toast. I've made a decision, and I'm going to do everything I can to meet a woman overseas. And I kind of narrowed it down to 5 countries: Japan, the Philippines, Spain, Taiwan, and Thailand. And I've pretty much decided that I'm going to give Thailand a shot first. It wasn't easy to make that decision because many men go over there, especially Westerners, because of the sex trade, prostitution. It's certainly nothing that I'm interested in exploring, and certainly not finding a woman to settle down with who's involved in that. Nevertheless, I had traveled to Thailand once before, and the one thing that really stood out, perhaps more than anything, is people really had an affinity for dogs. And you would travel into some of the poorest neighborhoods, you'd go along some of the, I guess what we would call slums that are along the canal banks, and people would be living in very poor conditions, and yet there would be a well cared for dog on a woman's lap sitting out by the river. I just felt that, well, that's a good testament to the civility of a culture. So I'm gonna give it a shot.
Good luck.
I think he's making a big mistake.
This whole idea is crazy.
Her father, mother, brother, uncle, sister, the 2 or 3 kids that he doesn't know about, they're all gonna be here living in his house.
He's a perv.
Insane.
An idiot.
Desperate.
I don't know what it feels like to be 50 to run out of options.
I think he's out of his mind.
Child molester.
I doubt that he's going to find the love of his life in Thailand. I think that he might find a few other things there.
Loser.
Bad idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Sad.
He's a fireman. Think about it.
I mean, if he wants a woman that can shoot ping pong balls out of her hoo-ha.
I suggest you get a test when you get home.
Let's play it safe. Let's enter a pseudonym. I'm gonna be Lewis. God, I'm old. Well, there's an attractive woman. She's 32, looking for a man 33 to 50, master's degree. She works in education or academics. She's willing to relocate to another country. She's 5'3", and she weighs 106 pounds. And her body style, she writes, a few extra pounds. 38, looking for 38 to 55-year-old. Wants children, she has a dog. Some very sexy pictures. Doesn't hurt looking at them, but this is not the girl I'm taking home to mom. 34 years old, sales and marketing, no children. None says hello. Doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, some English. Body art, tattoo. We're gonna pass on that. She works in the medical or veterinary field. I think I'm gonna go to Thailand. Tonight's the big night. Off to Bangkok. I have several dates lined up. And in fact, as soon as I get off the airplane, I will be checking into the hotel. And that night, which will be tomorrow night, I have my first date. My biggest concern now is Sadie. She's gonna be staying with a friend of mine for the entire time, and she knows I'm going.
Thank you.
Well, I'll definitely be able to live here for a month. May I have an omelet, please?
Omelet?
Please. My first date's tonight, and I have the whole day to relax, to eat, to swim, gym. How bad can this be? So for all of you people back home who thought I was crazy, my venture to find a girl out here, well, eat your hearts out, because that's what I'm doing. Could I have a cappuccino, please? Thank you.
I have to say that 10 out of 10 of all the guys that I asked, those guys that would like to have Thai ladies as a life partner, because they feel, or they have the feeling that Thai ladies they're looking for someone feminine, someone that independent but also dependent, someone that sweet, nice, caring, not too aggressive, someone not too pushy, bossy. Yeah, that's what I have heard. And also because this is the other dark side of it. They said that Thai lady always look more feminine and more petite.
What type of music do you like?
Rock music.
Really?
Yes. I think I like rock music.
Is it true?
True. Thank you. But I like the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is this the guitar?
No. And
drums.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you dance?
Little.
Just a little?
Yeah.
You dance Thai dance or
Thai
modern?
dance. Little. Do you know Thai dance?
Only in pictures, but I don't know very well.
You can try.
No.
Thai women. First, I think you have to consider the sort of stereotypes that I think a lot of Americans may hold about it, which is the sort of stereotype that they are simply marrying American men to get a green card, the sort of green card stereotype, or that they are doing it only for economic advancement. I don't think that's, although it's certainly true in some cases, I don't think it's generally true at all.
While taxis are ubiquitous in Bangkok, and by Western standards dirt cheap, I soon discovered that traffic is nothing short of horrendous. But after being stuck in gridlock more times than I care to remember, I began to observe something peculiar. No one was honking. There was no road rage, no obscene gestures, not once did I hear someone yell. And considering the way people drive, it was a miracle.
You want to study to speak Thai?
It's very difficult.
I can teach you.
That would be nice. But it's very difficult because it's a different alphabet and the sound is very difficult.
Yeah, because how many sounds?
Yes, and I think you can say the same word like 3 or 4 different ways.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example?
Ga, 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 ga. Not same word.
What does that mean?
Oh, can mean five things. I don't know how to explain.
Because when you say all 5, to me it sounds like you're saying
Can
the
you
same
say
thing.
Ga, 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 ga.
Ga, ga, ga. See, I can't sing. Well, I've been in Bangkok now for 5 days, and I've actually been out on 4 dates already, and so far so good. Well, I have your phone number.
Yes.
And maybe I can call you again.
Okay.
Okay, it was very nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Sawadee-ka. Bye-bye.
I am a teacher.
And what do you teach?
I teach student. I am a teacher math.
Math.
Yes.
Numbers.
Yes, number.
So you're very smart.
Nít nổi, little.
Where are you taking me?
I'm planning to dinner at Thai restaurant at the back side. At the back side of the office. Thai restaurant. It's very nice place, very nice view.
Good. I would like to take you to a restaurant, but I don't know any.
Yeah. Okay, no problem.
If you have, for example, a woman from upcountry, from a lower socioeconomic class, who has worked hard, gotten an education, for various cultural reasons, wealthy Thais may not consider her to be a suitable mate. And other potential mates from her same socioeconomic class who don't have the same education she does are just no longer candidates as potential mates. So a lot of times, well-educated Thai women from middle or lower socioeconomic backgrounds have a tiny pool of potential mates. Where are you from?
Thailand.
Of course, Thailand. But Thailand's a big country.
Bangkok.
Oh, you're from Bangkok. So your family?
Yes, my family stay in Bangkok.
Oh. When you look for a relationship with a man to date, what do you look for?
Love only me. Just me.
Nobody else?
No, another girl.
Is that the only thing?
Yeah.
Eventually, I learned that if I intended to be on time, the subway and the SkyTrain were superior options. But again, I noticed something at odds with my experience back home. No one occupied 2 seats. Everyone's bags were either on their lap or on the floor, and as soon as an older person or a pregnant woman boarded, not only would people readily give up their seats, I witnessed strangers getting up and literally grabbing passengers by the arm to offer them a spot.
Yes, my name's Tơi.
Tơi, okay. Is that a Thai name or Vietnamese name?
It's Thai name. My name is the same like some some tree, you know, the tree same like the screw pie, you know, like this, the tree. And this tree you can boil with the water and put some sugar and you can make the hot drink or cold drink or something like that.
Nice.
Good smell, yeah. But some French people it's hard to call my name. Some people like to call my name toys. Toys mean like some toys for the children or something like that. Or toilet.
Oh, that's not nice.
My friends like to joke like this, you know, toilet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why are you interested in meeting a foreign man, a Falang?
For myself, I think between Thai people and French people is the different the feeling about you respect the girl and you make you not control me so much. Now after I finish with my ex-boyfriend Thai guy, and then I don't need to have the Thai boyfriend anymore.
I think Thai ladies prefer to have foreign men as a life partner because, you know, I don't know whether you have heard about Thai men. Typical Thai men seem to be playful. Some people say that they are not really responsible type and they like to party, drink a lot, and they sometimes they just cheat. They have more than one girlfriend or one wife at the same time.
You speak?
No,
Speak Thai?
I just don't know anything in Thai. I just, I can say bad words.
Oh. Where you come from?
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
You know San Francisco?
No. San Francisco, America?
Yes. What do you like in a man?
Handsome.
Yeah.
Smart.
Mm-hmm.
I know woman in lady boy. Okay.
Tell me, you're 34, you have a master's degree, you're a lawyer. So why did you...
You want to know real or lie? Okay,
Either one.
Okay, I tell you the truth. I didn't have time. And difficult for me to find a guy, some nice guy. I don't like to go pub. I don't like to meet men at the disco pub.
I feel the same way.
Really? So how many girls? May I ask you some questions?
Sure, please.
How many girls you meet in person now?
In Bangkok on this trip? Okay.
Anything. How many girls?
You are number 7.
Oh.
I've been very
Not
busy.
much.
I just came.
In general, we are very compromising, family oriented. So it's kind of different because, you know, when you live in America, you have to fight to live. You have to fight to get up to the, you know, to be executive, and everything is like fighting. So you cannot be, how can I say, gentle and sensitive and be humble, modest. It's very, I think if Asians live in America, we won't go too high in the career. We're kind of quiet in the boardroom, I would say, even in classroom. But would you know that mostly Asians make the best score in class, even we are very quiet?
Tell me what you like about America.
I hate America.
Really?
Yes, but
No, then tell me.
Yes,
please.
a lot of guys from America look down Thai people, especially women. Yeah, maybe you never know that before. I cannot get out of my head that
You know I'm American.
Yes, I know.
So do you hate me?
I changed my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
After 4 weeks, I had run out of dates. And so with the time remaining, I thought, why not go back online? Well, here's a very attractive girl. Beautiful smile. Let's see, bachelor's degree, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink. Well, let's send her an email and who knows? Maybe she has time tomorrow and see her before I'm off to San Francisco the following day.
Do you know Udon Thani?
Don't know, but I know north.
Yes.
I was in, I went to Chiang Mai.
No, that's far from that. Udon Thani, almost close to Nong Khai, is the border of Laos to go to Laos, Vientiane.
So that's Isan, yes?
Yes,
So
Isan
you're
area.
Isan.
Yes.
Are you a red shirt?
No, I'm not red shirt. I'm yellow shirt. No, but I'm only. How do I say? I'm not both of them side, but I still love the king.
So do you speak Isan?
Sure, I was born there. I grew up there.
So you speak Isan, Thai, English?
A little bit for English.
Your English is very good.
Thank you. I will try more.
I'll find her here. That's the bottom line to this experience. I might not have found the girl of my dreams or fallen in love yet. Then what can one expect in a month? And then who knows? Maybe she's already somebody I met, and we'll just have to see. But I honestly think that with the amount of time, with the proper amount of time, or with the time and energy that I want to spend, I think I'll do better here than I do at home.
You can't tell me that there isn't some element of that desire to upgrade that now infects all the rest of our lives. You know, where does that end? I mean, where exactly is that going to take us? You know, when do we say this is enough? No, I'm good now. You know, there is not one product out there on the marketplace that tells you you're good now, right? You don't need to upgrade. This is all you'll ever need. You know, everything is built on the assumption that you will constantly have to upgrade, and that what you had before is inferior. And yet we're supposed to believe that idea isn't sort of operating in the rest of our lives. You know, that to me I think is probably the most terrifying aspect of this whole, you know, digitally driven consumer culture, is that we're never again going to be allowed to be satisfied with what we have right now.
So this is your aunt?
Yes, my aunt's room. Oh.
So this is her room.
Yes.
So Where's your room?
This is my room too. This is the same as my room. I live with her
So with the bed?
in the same. She sleep this side and I sleep that side.
Really?
Yes.
For 5 years?
Uh-huh.
Wow. You must like each other.
Yeah, we still love each other. No problem. Wow. In the same job.
ก็ยังเป็นห่วงเพราะว่าเป็นห่วงนะแล้วก็ถ้าจะไปอยู่ที่นู่นจะเป็นยังไงอะไรเงี้ยก็ยังคิดอยู่
And she's still worried about him. If he really got he feel if we know each other more and he going to take care of me well, maybe she take care of me. And she just worry if in the future if I go to live there, it's not like Thailand. She just hope I'm lucky for everything.
What's interesting in the West is that the idea of love, romantic love, and the idea of individualism have gone hand in hand. So our great stories of love, Romeo and Juliet, Tristan and Isolde, what they're about is a person turning their back on their own culture, their own group, and finding their love with somebody else and saying, I'm an individual because I love somebody else. You go to other cultures and this isn't the story of love, and love is much more nested in a family system. So the love you feel for your wife and the love you feel for your wife's mother and your wife's family and vice versa is part of the whole package of love. Love isn't sort of running away from a family. It's about being part of something bigger than yourself.
I think that Thais generally are just much more honest about how they choose mates, in that they will admit that they will take 20 factors into consideration in making that decision. Americans lie to ourselves that love's the only important thing in that decision when we know that's not true.
Well, I'm at the firehouse. It's about 7:30 in the morning and had a long night, a little busy, didn't get much sleep. And I got another half hour of my shift and then it's time to go home. So before I leave, I thought I'd try calling Bo on Skype and see if I can catch her before she goes to sleep.
Battalion 3 and Truck 8, continue to response to 611 Texas Street, Engine 8, continue response again. Battalion 3, Truck 8, continue to response to 611.
81 to Davies, go to.
81 to Davies, go to.
So why do you cut?
In the following months, I made several more trips to Thailand to spend time with O. And while there, I figured, what could be a better test of our compatibility than a trip to India? As anticipated, it was an assault on one's senses, from the sublime to the surreal to the sickening. But between the canceled flights, the trains that never arrived, the rickshaw traffic jams, and onion salads, the true test came on Valentine's Day as we got trapped in a gridlock that made Bangkok look like a thoroughfare. After hours in our bus without air conditioning, the driver decided to turn around and got stuck in the process. We took to hitchhiking, finally getting a ride from an apprehensive couple who offered the following statement. It's not every day you see a large man hitchhiking in India wearing a woman's hat. 12 hours later, we arrived in the rain, cold and hungry. But the flowers that I had requested actually arrived, and all the while, not once did we voice a complaint or become irritated with one another.
Come, Sadie. Hi,
sweetheart. You have a nice flight?
Yes.
Welcome to San Francisco.
Thank you.
This is Sadie. You hungry?
Yes. I'm hungry.
Always hungry, so you haven't changed. Since O's come to America, she's had a hard time finding food that she finds palatable, simply because it's just not spicy enough.
Spicy.
Sushi happy hour. Almost Thai mango, but it's not.
There's a huge amount of work now, a lot of studies showing that across populations, in different countries, different ages, different classes, the thing that makes us happy is other people and our relationships with those other people. And the more that you are connected through, your neighborhood groups, through your family, obviously, through work, through whatever, the happier you are in the long term and the healthier you are. There's all these metrics that show that the more connected you are, the better it is for you. The longer you live, your outlook is more positive.
ยิ้มหน่อยครับยิ้มหน่อยยิ้มหน่อยยิ้มหน่อยครับยิ้มหน่อยครับยิ้มหน่อยครับยิ้มหน่อยครับ
ขวัญนาขวัญล้างค่ะอยากไปนะครับ
Maybe it's like you buy something it's buy one you get three free, something that I have a friend and it's like a father. I'm joking. But not true.
Grandfather.
See. And I got a dog too. 4.
I count 3.
3. Buy one, get
Husband?
friend.
Oh, friend.
Yeah.
Dog. And grandfather.
Yes.
That's not bad.
Yeah, see? I'm the most lucky girl in the world.
Both parties have to be having their needs met in the relationship, and our needs are more complicated and more diverse than just romantic love. This sort of American Edwardian notion of romantic love. We're very complicated, and our needs are a lot broader and a lot more diverse than that. And there's nothing wrong with trying to take as many of those needs into consideration when choosing a mate as possible.
One of the surprises I had with O is, I remember when we met, and I met some of her friends, everybody said, oh, she's a great cook. And I just assumed, she probably knows how to cook rice or maybe boil water.
Maybe boil an egg.
Or boil an egg, exactly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And she turned out to be a phenomenal cook. So I got lucky.
Học Thai cô sạch.
So now, well, we're happily married, and if all goes well, we're planning on starting a family. We'll see if we get lucky again.
Yes.